Jewish community, we are now in the month of Tishrei in the calendar, which is usually observed between the months of September and October in the Gregorian calendar, the one we use every day. We start the new year with a day that is called Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. But unlike other societies, it is not celebrated with dancing, with drinking, with joy, but it's celebrated with prayers. And in particular, we're supposed to listen to the sound of a shofar, an elementary musical instrument made out of the horn of a ram, generally. And it emits some very elementary sounds, maybe to indicate that not everything can be expressed with words. There are some sentiments that come out with a sigh, with some other kind of sound. And we try to communicate with God with every means possible. So that the sound of the shofar is really another way of praying to the Almighty, trying to get close to the Almighty. It's also supposed to remind us of certain things. The fact that Abraham was willing to sacrifice his only son, and instead, at the end, he sacrificed a ram. But in general, it is the sound that comes from the inner part of the human being and tries to communicate with God in some way. Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment, according to Jewish tradition, in which a person has to begin a 10-day period of introspection, of recounting, enumerating what he did the year that passed, and try, of course, to improve for the following year. And it culminates on the 10th day, which is called Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the Day of Divine Forgiveness. How will we obtain divine forgiveness? By repenting from our sins, and above all, resolving that we are not going to do the same thing next year, by trying to communicate with God through prayer, and also by acts of kindness toward other people. Remember, Judaism always thinks of the other person. On that day of Yom Kippur, we're supposed to abstain from eating, from drinking, total fast. In other words, don't concentrate on food, on what you're going to have for dessert, after breakfast, what you're going to eat for lunch. No, forget about that. It's a day of reflection, as I say, a day of introspection. Don't eat on that day. On the 15th day of the month, which is tonight, we are going to begin the festivity of Sukkot, which is the festivity of huts, tabernacle. We're supposed to leave our home and eat now in a sukkah, in a hut, to remember the huts that our ancestors used when they left Egypt in order to protect themselves from the rays of the sun. To have some kind of cover, they made huts. So we replicate that nowadays also. Of course, this year, the last part of this holiday is called Shemini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, day on which we finish reading the Torah. We read the 5 books of Moses annually. We repeat it annually. We finish reading on that day, and we will start all over again, because one is never finished studying the Torah. It's divine wisdom. It has a lot to teach us, and each year we are different, so we understand the Torah in a different manner. But this year, as last year, it'll also be a day of remembrance of what happened on such a day 2 years ago, October 7th, when over 1,200 innocent people were murdered, women violated, atrocities committed against the Jewish people. Not since the Holocaust did the Jewish people suffer so much on that day as on October 7th. Over 200 people were taken hostage, and that is, of course, an issue that is being debated even at this very moment. So on the one hand, it's a day of rejoicing, but it's also a day of remembering. But I want to point out to something. Yom Kippur teaches you, abstain from food for a period of 24, 25 hours. Don't eat, don't drink anything. Sukkot tells you, leave your home. What is that trying to teach us? Maybe it's trying to sensitivize us, make us aware that there are people at this very moment that don't have enough to eat, They're never satiated because they don't have enough calories to intake. They don't have a strong roof over their heads. There are people that suffer this very day. So while you live in relative abundance, most of us have more or less comfortable lives. Remember, there are many people in this world that don't have that. So you should feel with them, just like our ancestors. When they left Egypt, they were enslaved. They are sensitive to slavery that still exists in the world today. So we should appreciate liberty. So these holidays are teaching us, appreciate what you have now. Because there are people, we ourselves didn't enjoy it at all times, and there are people at this very moment that don't enjoy it either. Make sure you extend a friendly hand. You help to make this a more hospitable world, a world in which people will be happier and will be able to realize their dreams, as you are doing at this very moment.